I want to introduce the panel here from Million Dollar Arm. Immediately to my right, with his own arm thing going on here, is Gordon Gray.
Shoulder surgery.
Shoulder surgery, wow. Gordon Gray is the producer with Mark Giardi.
Trying to win $1 million.
And to his right, of course, Joe Roth, another producer on the film, as many other films coming out for Disney, Maleficent in May, and Heaven is for Real next week. And then we have, of course, the star of the film, Jon Hamm.
A star of the film.
A star of the film, who's also has Mad Men starting again tonight. I've seen their great episode.
9 o'clock AMC.
And another star of the film, Lake Bell, right there. Yes. And then there wouldn't be a film without these guys at the end. Right next to Lake is Rinku Singh, who is one of the real-life inspirations, obviously. And it's his story, J.B. Bernstein, right there.
I just want to give a Mad Men reminder tonight, AMC.
Let me start with you, Gordon, because this all sort of came about with you and Mark. How did you guys come up with this this idea to do this as a film? And did JB come to you, or how did it all start?
Mark and I have known JB for many, many years before we even got into the film business. And I think it was a Super Bowl, right, JB, that you told Mark you were heading over to India?
Yeah.
Well, with this crazy idea to find pitching prospects in India. So that's the last we talked about it. And then when JB came back with Rinku and Dinesh having been signed by Pittsburgh, they had thought that this would be a great idea for, I think, a doc. And we immediately recognized that this had great potential as a feature film.
Well, you guys have done so many sports-oriented films in the past, most recently Secretariat and Miracle and all of the several, Invincible and The Rookie. So you're sort of a specialist in this area, but I think this movie goes beyond any sports movie. It's really a movie about relationships, about family. It's about a lot of things, not just this competition.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, for us, this is a movie really about JB as a fish out of water, going to India with this crazy scheme, leaving a single guy, a bachelor, having a fun life, and then through the evolution of this development with the players, becoming a surrogate father, and ultimately opening up his heart to find love and marriage.
Jill, what attracted you to this project too? Because it's also about second chances in a big way, and I know that's a theme that you really respond to.
Everything attracted me to this project. I mean, I knew the story, the basics of the story when Mark and Gordon came to me from ESPN. So I wasn't a big sports fan, so it wasn't new to me. And I wanted to get involved. I guess I'm the guy that people come to when they have these dreamlike projects and haven't quite figured out how to get it done. And we pursued it for quite some time. We developed it with another studio. They decided not to make it. And we came to Disney, and it just seemed to me like a kind of a perfect Disney movie, which was from my days at Disney. It was always what defined the Disney movie was just a really good story. And I love second chance stories, and I love fish out of water stories, and I love the idea that I'm sitting in a movie theater and I'm thinking, wow, if these two guys can accomplish that, I can get up out of here when the lights get on, and I can accomplish almost anything.
Yeah, to me also it's a true family movie. When you say family movie these days, it's usually animation or it's something else. This is a live action movie that anybody can go see, and that's getting more and more rare. This movie is what I'd call a true family film. They used to make all the time in Hollywood.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore now. A family movie is anything you can take a 3-year-old and have 17 people shot. That's a family movie. No, this is, I've been involved in a lot of movies,
yeah.
and every once in a while something turns out far greater than your greatest dreams. And it's an interesting thing, because it's a combination. I never had any doubt about Jon or Blake, and Craig, who's not here because his father passed a few days ago. He's back in Australia. But when you see the finished product, you know, we screen this picture, and whether you're a 12-year-old girl or a 55-year-old guy, or the vice versa, whatever, whether you're here or you're in India or you're in the UK, everybody comes away feeling great about the movie. So this is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, I saw it at CinemaCon, the Theater Exhibitors Convention, and they went crazy for it.
Yeah, now here's the worst audience in the world, the exhibitors. And they absolutely love the movie. They have, yeah. So we haven't found anybody yet, you know, in groups, and regardless of what country they come from or what they know about baseball or don't know about baseball, it is a family picture.
Now, Jon, this is a terrific performance, big leading role, and wildly different from Don Draper. What was it about this script, though, and this story? Did you know about it first? Had you ever heard of it? Or?
No, I read the script and finished the script and loved it, and then looked back to the title page and went like, wait a minute, this is true? Like, I am a huge baseball fan, and somehow this flew under my radar, and I didn't know. And so immediately, like 2 hours later, was in like a Google hole of like finding out everything I could about this, and I was like, oh my God, this actually happened. And that element to the story, it dovetails with what Joe and Gordon just said. It's just this incredibly uplifting story about you know, thinking outside the box and really following through with something and working hard and succeeding. And it's just, again, you're right, it's about 180 degrees from Don Draper, this character that I play, but it's affirming, and it's uplifting, and it's heartwarming, and it's emotional, and it's not a sports movie so much as it's a movie that moves you. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the finished product, and how much it's much more than a sum of its part, much more than just a sum of its parts. It has this wonderful message. And it's nice that I get to be in something that has you know, my day job, I play, you know, not the greatest guy in the world, and it's nice to no offense, but it's I was offending Lake. I was of course talking about my role on Children's Hospital.
Yes.
To Lake, personally. But no, it's nice to you know, portray that and to make this movie that, as you rightly point out, it's a family film. It's a film that I can tell my friends to take their children to, and actually not be like, but maybe don't watch the part where I say horrible things. It works, and it works as a story, and it works on several levels, and it's testament to not only JB and Rinku and Dinesh's amazing true story, but it's also testament to Lake's wonderful performance. The boys are so fantastic in it, and bring so much soul and depth to, you know, what could be just a one-note kind of performance. They bring this whole world of emotion to it, and it resonates. And I was so pleased to see how Craig expertly managed the tone of the film to not veer into the world of sentimentality or sappiness or hokiness or over earnestness or any of that, and just stay true to the basics of the story, which has this incredibly emotional component to it. And having spoken to JB and learning that these events changed his life positively, it's a tremendous honor to get to be able to tell that story, and I'm so pleased with it, and as Joe said, I'm so proud of it, this thing that we made, and I just want people to see it, so tell everyone.
It's a tricky tone too, because it's got a lot of comedy, it's got a lot of drama, it's got a lot of heart, it's got all those things, which is not always easy, that souffle to put together. I think a lot of it is the chemistry that you actors have with each other. I'm talking about you and Lake together. You've worked together before, but you seem great on screen.
We had never
We've known each other
done.
for a million
Yeah,
years,
I was gonna say
right?
we've known each other for a long time, but we'd never done anything that, you know, had sort of scenes that had real stakes in it, you know, where, you know, we could actually sink our teeth into something. Because on Children's Hospital, when we do bits and things like that, it's completely different. I mean, this this
I
was...
play a person who, basically I play Malin Ackerman in a wig. So,
That's
it's
unusually
very
possible.
weird. It's
different.
If you haven't seen the film, Malin
It's
Ackerman is
not
not in the film. And there are very few wigs.
Has nothing to do with that.
But
But also, I think a testament to Tom McCarthy, the writer, who certainly when I read it, I am a huge fan of his as well. But I think that in the script, there's very much, everybody has their own world. So, the female character in a sea of male characters still is, well thought out and has her own world. Brenda, that's what really attracted me to the script so much. And, because I think in a sea of gentlemen and in a sports movie, perhaps the female character can get left on the sidelines. And I felt very... the character itself is very present and has a lot of energy and somewhat of an emotional catalyst for your emotional journey.
yeah, the scene that we have, and I don't know how many of you have seen the movie, but there's a scene where one of the boys gets injured and it's sort of like her fault because she fucked up.
It's an accident.
And there's this kind of like angry thing where she basically pushes back and says like, no, you're being, a jerk. Like stop being a jerk, and it's true, and it was actually kind of a lovely scene, and it was one of the first things we did.
Yeah, and I think it's just a very honest account of how a strong woman who sort of respects herself would act.
Would
versus,
actually stand up for herself and not be some sort of speed bummer.
Yes, exactly.
And she's smart. She's really smart. Is it hard to find these kinds of roles? I mean, because this is a smart female character in a, as you say, a male-oriented kind of film.
Yeah, I think it's a well-drawn character. She's smart and she's layered, and sometimes even for a supporting peripheral character that's sort of supporting his emotional journey, that is often, that's absolutely rare. So I'm very thankful to it, and I think I also Craig's work in keeping it tonally, and he encouraged me to be a little tough, and I know JB said that the real Brenda, you said she's a badass, right?
Just like watching you guys right now is like an out-of-body experience. It's like me and Brenda literally arguing in front of you right now.
Well, JB, was the whole thing an out-of-body experience for you, seeing your life essentially come to life on the screen here? How did it come about for you in the first place, and what was it like?
When someone's going to make a story about your life, there's a lot of trepidation, but because of the Roth guys and because of the Mayhem guys, I had a huge level of trust. As Gordon says, I've known those guys forever, so I kind of just stood back and let them put this together. I spent a lot of time with Tom, and I think that that's reflected in what Jon and Lake are talking about. Is he would call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "What would Brenda say to you if you did this?" And and he spent a lot of time with Rinku and Dinesh and with the characters in real life. But what's amazing about this story is all the major points in this story are true. My fish out of water journey is almost exactly what happened, down to costumes. Rinku and Dinesh's fish out of water journey is exactly as it happened. The way I fell in love with my wife, their first tryout failure, which was my fault 100%. And now I'm saying that in public, so I'm on the record. It was 100% my fault. They're succeeding with their second tryout, which was 100% their fault. So all the major beats in this movie are exactly as it happened. So yeah, when I watched the movie, my wife and I, we went to watch it, and it does kind of feel like an out-of-body experience. And the relationship between Jon and Lake in this movie is so like my relationship with Brenda, and a lot of that we owe to Tom, but also to these guys. For never meeting Brenda, it's almost like she's sitting right here right now. Here like chiming in on Jon, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's totally Brenda.
How much time did you spend with Jon before the film, or had you met Jon at all?
The first time I met Jon, they already were deep into filming. We met him in India, and I think, look, I'm just very trite. I'm just a really easy guy. I'm a trite character, so he's not. He's the best actor out there, and teaching a great script. and did a great job. And a lot of my friends who have seen it say, you know, he really nailed you, and I just laugh. It's so funny. It's like, you know, he was halfway through filming before he ever met me. So it's a testament to how this came together and to the type of actors these guys are.
That also begs the question, because you're playing a real-life character, Jon, and is there a difference for you as an actor when you're playing somebody you know is still around?
Obviously, you know, what you desperately don't want to do is be false. But I think that translates into any performance. But again, like it was such a pleasure to meet not only JB but Rinku and Dinesh and everyone who's involved in this whole story has their real-life counterparts. The last thing you want to do is sort of offend and portray them in some way that rings false. And I think it's as Lake said, it's just a testament to Tommy's wonderful script that he got everybody on the page. You know, to the point where I read it and didn't realize it was a true story until I looked back to the front page and I was like, wait a minute, this is crazy. You know, Tommy is a wonderful writer, and he has the ability to make what seems like a simple story resonate in a way that brings so much more to it. And you see it in his films, you see it in The Visitor, you see it in Win-Win, you see it in all of the stuff that he does for himself. And he's able to take this story, which is on its face an amazing story, and an impossible story.
Almost unbelievable.
Unbelievable story, and yet he imbues it with so much more and so much more emotion and love. I guess it's hard to talk about without sounding hokey, but it just has this beautiful sensibility to it that I'm a sucker for that. It just makes me, you know, it makes me feel something, and that's a nice thing. As Joe was saying, like, it's nice to, like, when the lights come up at the end of the movie, to not be like, what did I just watch? Who was the bad guy, and why did the things crash, and what blew up, and why is the president mad? You get out of the movie. It used to be the way you did when you got out of the movie. You felt something, and you were either emotional or you wanted to, like, be a better person or something. And this is that kind of movie, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
And I think also the good news is that, I mean, I don't know Diddy about
You don't know
baseball.
Puff Daddy?
I don't know Diddy. No, I don't know Diddy. No, I
have a feeling.
I don't know the squad.
Better.
Is there anyone named Squad?
Hank Squad?
Who is Hank Squad?
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy. No, I don't know Squad about baseball or sports for that matter. So, you know, in watching the movie and also just, you know, reading the story, I'm always utterly moved. And I think that it's because there's something about raw talent that's undeniable and hard work, which, you know, you can just, I mean, anybody can relate to that. And I am very moved by great sports movies that have an emotional core because of that. Not that I know and relate to how to do things sporty, so I don't know. But I think that's what makes me proud of it as well, which is, like you said, that your whole family, there's not one family member that you would not recommend to see this, because yeah, I have the same thing. I'm like, Dad, don't see this, because there's like a weird boob moment. You know, so this is that.
I have one weird boob.
Yeah.
I love it.
But anyway, so I do think that it is relatable and utterly moving regardless, because of that. You know, the sheer hard work that pays off to success and makes it sort of undeniable and kind of a beautifully moving thing.
Okay, now I got to ask Rinku, because you were there, man. You were right there. This is your story too. And what's it like for you and this portrayal? Suraj Sharma, who of course was in Life of Pi, plays you in this, and he's wonderful in the movie. I'm wondering what that kind of thing is for you to see this on the screen.
First of all, I think he's not just a great actor. He's a great young man as well, meeting him, and you know, I'm very lucky to have a man like him playing my role. And you know, obviously what I think of this movie, that you know, I never have seen any movie like that before. It's such an inspiring, it's not just something that have a movie made. This is something that, you know, seeing a bunch of American kids coming here, like for me, was totally new, you know, planet. Being here, it's just so amazing seeing all different new things, you know. And this is something I think a lot of American kids gonna carry from the movie rest of their life. As example, like I took over the 200 ball player, like all my teammates went to see the movie, and the reality is what they carry. A lot of people they sign like 19-year-old kid signing with $1 million signing bonus. They don't know what to do with it. You know, they're just young. And seeing this movie, how I have struggled, you know, coming where I'm coming from, they never realized. And as soon as they saw the movie, a lot of kids they come to me and saying, Rinku, I apologize that word we have using, how we have, you know, treated. We never thought that where you're coming from, man. This is something really amazing, and we're gonna get serious. We're gonna get really, really serious about this business. And the people I have seen, the guys teammate that, you know, walking around in clubhouse and not doing things, those guys coming to me and saying like, man, this is something really we learn it of seeing your story where you're coming from. So I think this is really, really serious. You know, you can learn from it. Seeing especially for a young man, you know, not just in America, all around the world. I would say, you know, see it, and it's something reality that what we have been through, you know. And thanks to Pittsburgh Pirates organization, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. they're the one keeping me alive. You know? So thanks to them. Thanks to Disney.
In an age of cynicism, which we're in, obviously, and both in the real world and in the movie world, it is so unusual to work on a project like this. And usually when you have like these kind of things, I have to drag the actors in and have them make up stuff they don't believe in and say, it was such a pleasure doing the 7th chapter of whatever movie it was. and so for me, sitting up here is, again, very, very few movies come together in a way where they turn out to be something much more than what you expected. And it was a great script by Tom. It's a wonderful cast, and director Craig, you know, who had done Lars and the Real World and Fright Night. You know, you know, it was hard for me to make, frankly, to make the connection. But then when we actually see the movie come out, it is an uncynical movie in a very cynical time. And so it's a very important movie to me personally, and I think to all the rest of us. And I just want to say that many eons ago, I directed a movie called While You Were Sleeping, which had some of the same, didn't have baseball, but had some of the same sort of, came out of left field. And I had a chance to cast the biggest female star at the time, and chose to cast an unknown named Sandra Bullock. And I felt the same way seeing Lake in this movie. I think that if she wants to stop doing voiceovers, she's got a big career in front of her.
And a great filmmaker herself, if you saw In a World last year, which was a terrific film. Gordon, I wanted to, something Joe said.
No, let's keep talking about Lake. She's let's see how red she gets.
Gordon, I just wanted to ask you, because you talked about movies that are inspiring as well, too, and you guys really, you and Mark have really specialized in that a little bit here, and I just wondering, what was it about those kind of stories that you wanted to bring to the screen, and how difficult has it been through the course of your career to get these kind of movies made? Because it's not exactly the obvious Hollywood smash hit sequel like he's talking about that we're making now.
Mark and I have been very fortunate to have a deal at Disney. And Disney allows us to make these kinds of movies. I think they expect them from us. So it's always hard to get a movie made, but I think for us, with those expectations, it's a clear path. And when we think about a movie, I just respond viscerally. If it's something that grabs me emotionally, that's something I think I could sell to the studio and to writers and to actors, directors. So this one, and most of the ones that do get made are very easy. We sat down with Sean and he got it right away.
Sean Bailey, who's here.
And then
I'll clap for that.
the first writer we went to, and our dream writer was Tom McCarthy, and he said yes. And we heard that John was very picky, but he's the first guy we went to, and he said yes. So this has been a real sweet experience for us.
All right, let's take some questions.
Hi, John, watching the film reminded me so much of some of my own trip to India a few years ago, and especially when you said it's a study in extremes. So I'm wondering how you might apply something like that to your own career, the highest moment, the lowest moment, and how you felt it changed your life much as this trip changed JB's life.
It's not difficult to draw a parallel with between an agent's life and an actor's life in many ways. I mean, you have to sort of project this confidence, you have to project this sort of charisma and charm and everything, and then it all falls apart. And that's every audition that I've ever been on for the first 3 years of my career in Los Angeles. You walk in the room, you're like, this is going to be great. I'm the best guy, and you love me, and we love. Nope, it's not working. Okay, bye. So it's immediately apparent, and so I identified obviously with that part of JP's experience of sort of like trying to win these guys over in the room, and then winning them, and then they're like, oh, you're going to go with CAA. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Goodbye. And so that's obviously an easy parallel to draw. And again, it's such a capricious, strange existence, basing your life on the whims of others, and basing your kind of ebbs and flows of confidence and lack of confidence on, the fact that people either choose you or don't. I know we both had very similar careers in that sense of just like, you run up against a wall, and then it's just like, oh yeah, I guess they hired Brad Pitt. Moving on. I'm sorry you lost so many roles to Brad Pitt.
It's fine.
She was up for Moneyball, and it didn't work out. I felt bad.
It's fine. I don't know why we're talking about this.
It's okay. I lost the role to Jonah Hill. I mean, it happens.
A very different movie.
It would have been. No, it wouldn't have. That's not true. It's a wonderful film.
It's great.
We love it. We could talk about it.
Let's just talk about it later, John.
Okay. I totally forgot your question.
Well, the study in extremes, the up, the down, applying that to.
Well, yes, of course. And India, I had never been, and being thrust into the chaos of India was a eye-opener and let me understand at a visceral level what JB went through, which is literally like coming up with this idea is one thing, then sort of willing it into existence is a whole other thing. And we show a bit of it in the film, but the practicalities of doing that in India when you have never been there, have no experience over there, it is impossible. It is impossible, and yet it happened, and this is the result. And this incredible young man who is an incredible athlete, and literally living my dream as a child of being a professional baseball player, which I kind of hitting for. But like the unbelievable hard work that both of them went through to will this thing into existence is so inspiring to so many people. And what Rinku was saying about like, a lot of athletes these days are, precious and sort of entitled and all of these other things, and they see this story, and they see what this guy went through and where he came from, and is still as successful as he is, and their eyes are opened, and the scales fall off, and they go, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. And it puts everything into perspective in the best way. And that's just reason number 400 that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this project.
Okay, yeah, right there.
Yeah, my question actually is for JB. I was going to ask
We got a
you.
mic.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, JB, I wanted to ask you about John's portrayal of you. Were you as big of a prick as he?
All right, here we go.
No, I mean his performance.
Hello, kids.
It's actually, the short answer to your question is yes. but it wasn't that I was trying to be a prick. I was so focused in my life on business, I'd become kind of myopic. And the only thing I really took pride in was the deal and getting deals done for my clients. And that was my sole source of pride. So it kind of became this self-fulfilling prophecy that, I was defined as a person by being an agent. There's a point actually in the movie where I'm yelling at Brenda, or he's yelling at Lake, and in the hospital. And Brenda and I actually went to see the movie the other night, and one of the people in front of us, woman in front of us who didn't know, I was sitting behind her, said, she's like, wow, this guy JB's a real prick. And Brenda said, watch the rest of the movie, he turns out good. So the reality is that, having Rinku and Dinesh thrust into my life opened me up mostly to the importance of family and having people around you that you love and that you love them and you support each other, and opened me up to the possibility of having a wife and kid of my own, and Brenda kind of came along and filled that role. So yes, I was a prick, but I'm going in the right direction. I'm still not perfect, but I'm still going in the right direction. I got a beautiful daughter and a great wife, and I owe it mostly to Rinku and Dinesh, who started me down that path.
Okay, yes, right there.
My question's for Rinku. And so you achieved the American dream in the broadest of terms, but the movie tells us that was not your dream. So I was curious, what did you hope and expect to do with your life when you were a kid? And then what would you tell kids about how to approach their future?
That's a great question right here. By the way, I'm still living in dream. As a growing up kid back in India, my goal was to represent my country and be an Olympian player. But 2007, I qualified for Olympic, but never really had a chance. It's just because of this man right here. Wanted to give me $1 million, I'm just throwing a baseball. So never really had a chance to go to Olympic and came to America. That wasn't really, that was really hard decision to make. A lot of people made fun of me when I was just 18-year-old kid, not knowing nothing about America, not knowing anything about a culture. Leaving friends, family, graduation, didn't even have a chance to go to finish my degree. I was just literally past high school and trying to get my degree, but really didn't happen. But that was really giving me a chance to help my family, bring them up where they were before, and it really changed my life. And my message is for the kids. Every single human wants to succeed in their life. Succeed is a very easy word to say, it's succeed. But what I learned, succeed, you don't want to just succeed, you want to succeed bad as it breathes. It's just like you're dying, what can you say in a minute that, what can I say to my mom, what can I say to my dad, fiance, girlfriend, wife? That's how bad you want to succeed, just like bad as it breathes. Since I signed a professional contract, there's so many things I have to do differently. And if it's my team is doing work out for 2 hours, obviously I have to do a 5, 6 hour, 7 hour. It's just because I'm not been that way. I didn't play baseball growing up. So I always had to put in my 110% effort. It doesn't matter how you feel, how much you sleep, what's going on in family, golfing. It doesn't matter, but still I have to get up, show up, dressed up, and be on time, and give 110%. That's my message. So it's not about just seeing a dream, it's about following daily basis, what you're doing, know what you're doing, who you hang out, how much you sleep, what you eat. It's respect the opportunity. So.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Hi, this is for Jon. So getting back to the family-friendly aspect, I think this is the first role of yours that I can show my 7-year-old daughter. And I was wondering, as an actor,
She didn't see Bridesmaids?
as an actor, did you, because you're known for your edgier roles, did you feel, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but limited at all by the PG rating?
Absolutely not. It gets back to what Joe was saying. We live in this incredibly cynical time, and I almost started crying when Ricky was talking about the struggle that he was talking about. It's such a beautiful story, and it's a story about working hard. And I honestly don't know if you guys know what. I still play baseball, terribly, but the journey that these two boys went on, from literally never having seen a baseball to getting to an elite performance level, is an impossible journey. and the hard work that it entails, and exactly what he was saying, like he has to put in 200% because he didn't grow up playing this sport, hasn't been doing it since he's in 3rd grade, and going on traveling teams and all these other kids have had. He started from 0 and got to 100 in a year. It's mind-blowing, but it doesn't happen without an incredible work ethic and an incredible commitment on both of their parts to focus on this and to really, really achieve. And what Rinku was saying, this because he wants to be proud of himself and his family and represent his country and all of these things. Those are the things that I respond to in the movie, those emotions and those things. For me, it doesn't need to be edgy to be good. It needs to be good to be good. And again, I sound like a broken record, but it's come through so wonderfly in Craig's shepherding of the tone of the film that it just represents all of these wonderful things and doesn't veer off into over earnestness or sentimentality or whatever. And so it wasn't intimidating at all. It was inspiring and fun. I can still go do, dumb, kind of fun.
You gonna pitch something?
I don't know, what do you want to do?
I don't know, just something
We can do something edgy next. But this is what it is, and we're obviously, there's a reason we're here, early in the morning on a Sunday. We're all very proud of it. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be in a PG movie.
Yes, ma'am, right there.
Yes, I wanted to ask Rinku, back when the first tryouts, most of the contestants couldn't get past, I think it was like 40 or 50. What do you think was in you or that you had to contribute that made you basically double that and stand out?
This is what we're talking about back in India, right?
Right.
Okay. Here's what I believe, when you're really trying to do something, you don't do perfect. For me, it was kind of joke, For me, it was really like a joke, JV, who's the JV guy gonna give you $1 million throwing a baseball? For me, it was just, I got forced by my athletic coach, go there and try, because I really don't want to go there because I thought it was kind of quick, but since I got don't know how to throw baseball. I got the baseball, I don't know what to do with it. And we do speed packing and javelin throw, which is you have to make like flamingo style and do parallel throwing. So that's what JV called flamingo style. So basically just didn't thought about that going to America. Never heard about a baseball and went there just for fun, and it turned out to it become a huge dream now. So.
I'll add, Rinku's the personification of the thesis of this whole thing, which is that there's all this raw talent in India because they don't have collegiate athletics, they don't have pro sports leagues, and if these things didn't exist in the United States, guys like Michael Jordan wouldn't even know it would be helpful to have a jump shot if there was no pro basketball. So these athletes would just be kind of out milling around in the world. And so our thought was that there'd be guys like Rinku who never picked up a baseball, who had no idea they could throw fast, and then they would just pick it up and do it. And the reality is, it's just like in the movie, we're sitting there watching this guy standing there on one leg, and we're like, there's no way this is going to be good, and we're just watching like it's going to be a train wreck, and he throws it, it's 86 miles an hour, the first time he ever picked up a baseball, and you just say...
That's impossible. That's impossible.
And yet, it happened, and that's the thing that's kind of the whole premise that my partners and I created this on, which is that at the end of the day, there's all these guys walking around like Rinku who are just doing other things because there is no baseball, there's no value to knowing that you have this skill. So there was, and like anything, you have to sift through a lot of, if we did this contest in the United States, there'd be a lot of guys who threw 40, but you'd find that diamond in the rough. And with Rinku and Dinesh and a lot of the other guys who were in the finals, there were 30 guys in India we found that were throwing over 85 miles an hour, none of which had ever seen a baseball. So, and that was just with 38,000 kids. So when you think about the percentages of how many thousands of kids are probably just walking around India, working for their dad, at college, in the military, in various jobs, because they don't know there's any value to it. So Rinku's the personification of our thesis.
Okay, time for two more. Yes, sir, right there. Yeah.
For Lake and John, how people create families is one of the big themes in this film. What experiences from your own family life did you bring to your performance?
Lake got married right before the movie
That's
started.
true.
And did you have to miss your honeymoon? Did you postpone?
No, we postponed, yeah. But no, I got married
Sorry.
at June 1, and then we started shooting 2 days after that. So, yeah, family was definitely on my mind, and relationships and whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, wait, you speak to the family part of it. Did you draw anything from your family?
I mean, you know, I'm in a modern family myself. Everyone's like, when are you and Jen going to get married? We've been together for 16 years. And yet we're very, we're as married as anybody, I guess. I don't know. And it is, however you define it, is what it is. And you can see in JB and Rinku's relationship, the real guys, that there is this sort of paternal and loving relationship there. And that was part of the thing that, again, like attracted me to this, like this guy learning that and what that means. You know, I don't have kids, but I've been a teacher. I've been a daycare teacher. I have tons of nieces and nephews. And I feel like all of these people are my family. I lost my parents very young. I've had a lot of surrogate parents in my life. You know, family friends who have sort of adopted me in many ways. So I have a very fluid definition of family as well. And again, that's just reason 401 why I responded to the script. And I think it is a big part of the journey of this character. Go.
Well, no, I thought it was great because I was thinking about
Yeah, it was great.
it is.
Super great.
No, I like the modern family aspect of it because I do.
ABC.
No, but I do. You know, I think that
ABC is a Disney-owned.
I think that, you know, you're the unit that you know, we all forge, or that you three certainly forge, and even with Pito actually, you know, it is a very modern unit, but it does feel like a hearth in many ways, and I think that's all that those guys had. So it becomes this, you know, I come from also, you know, kind of disjointed, a couple of divorces and all kinds of steps and halves, and I, you know, I do love that idea of having surrogate parents, people that you do look up to regardless of who your parents are, you know, and those are your mentors, and those are your, you know, those are your spirit animals to walk through life and figure out, ooh, I like how they do things, or, you know, I look up to them, and I think you do create your own family in many ways, and that is, you know, that's a poignant part of this story when it comes to the family aspect, I think.
All right, got time for just one more. We'll take it from the back, right there, yes.
Hi. So it's a personal belief of mine that, you know, with our talents in life, that we should use those talents to benefit others. So my question is for JP and Rinku. Do you do anything, or what are you doing back in India to better help kids in India reach their goals, whatever their goals are in life, education, sports, whatever it may be? Are you doing anything, maybe with baseball, to help kids realize that their dreams can be achieved? Because I know in India it is a totally different world than here in America. And sometimes kids don't always get that ability or chance that you may have received.
This is probably the best question to end this press conference on. The reality situation is, yes, we're doing something. It's a movie called $1 Million Arm. So the reality is that, and Rinku said this in one of his interviews yesterday, and to talk about almost crying, you know, I started to tear up, and he said, you know, there's 500 million kids in India in these villages who grew up just like him. Who grew up just like him. They grew up and they basically, it's not that they were unhappy, but they have a a predetermined life. They're going to work for their dad. If they're very lucky, like Rinku, and they're a gifted athlete, maybe they can compete for the Olympics, maybe they can get into the military. His brother got a great government job because he was a long-distance runner. 2 of his brothers are in the Black Commandos, which is, you know, the special forces. But if you're not a gifted athlete in that respect that you can turn into kind of a government job, pretty much you're going to end up working for your family, and you're going to perpetuate what your family is. So it's gotten to the point where in these villages over thousands of years, there's no hope in the sense like we have hope here. You can live in any circumstance in the United States, and there's someone just like you who succeeded in exactly what you want to do. You come from terrible circumstances, you want to be a writer, there's Richard Wright. You want to be president, it's Barack Obama. There's an example, literally, of someone just like you. And in India, that doesn't exist. And I started to tear up yesterday, I'm going to try not to right now, when Rinku was talking and he said, these kids are seeing their dream through me. It's not that they're going to want to be a baseball pitcher, but the first spark of hope is when you ask yourself the question, what gift did God give me that I can develop, that I can respect that talent, and that I can better my life and get out of this village and help my family and do what Rinku did, build my family a house, have my dad retire, take care of my brother's wedding. You know, we were just in India for his brother's wedding. These are things that are dreams that every kid has. You know, you want to make your family, you give them a better life. And when people see this story, that will be hopefully the first step in that. You know, can I create an outreach program to 500 million kids? This is it. We're not going to get a bigger megaphone than a Disney movie to go out there and show a real story about someone just like them who went and did something not impossible or improbable, something that's never been done in the history of the world, not just in India. No one's ever gone from a position of not hearing of a sport to signing a pro contract in 10 months, and within 13 months of this kid stepping on U.S. soil, he actually won a game for the Pirates. He knew so little about baseball at that point that they're mobbing him on the mound, and like, we won. He's like, yeah, we won. They're like, no, you won. And he's like, how can a relief pitcher win a game? You know, literally, he was so, so early in his development as a player. And to me, that's the inspiration that kids need. It's the impetus, it's the catalyst that says, I can do something too. So maybe I'm smart at science and I can be a doctor. Maybe I'm going to be a great lawyer. Maybe I'm going to be a politician. But it's someone like them who came from a village like theirs and a family like theirs that has done something. He's been to the United States. He's pitched in Australia. He's pitched in the Dominican Republic. He's met the president. His jersey is in the presidential archives. This is an insane piece of motivation that if a kid can't take away motivation from this story, nothing will motivate them. So it's a great question to end on, and we thank Disney because I, as an individual, even Major League Baseball, couldn't put this type of amplification on this story that they're going to be able to put. So that pressure's on you, Sean.
All right, well, let's thank everybody up here. Thank you for